Well, hello, Andrew here yet again, and this is episode 214, and it's the end today of Matthew's Gospel. We look at the last 5 verses, and that's it. There is a little bit more, which I'll explain at the end of the episode today, but basically we've come today to the end of the Gospel. So we pick up the narrative at Matthew 28, verses 16 to 20. Now, the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And when Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age." Wow. Matthew and Mark both record the risen Jesus' instruction to go to Galilee, where they will see him. In John, this is implied, because it's here that they go fishing and meet Jesus on the shore. It's an invitation to return home. And it seems logical that the mountain on which they are to meet Jesus is Mount Hermon, where it is likely the Transfiguration occurred, just not that long before. This is near the border of Israel and Syrian territory. So you can look in both directions. At this point, given the nature of the commission that is about to be given, this is an appropriate place. It is the highest point, and views open into both Israel in the south and Syria in the north. It is a place where the command to go to all nations can be visualized by Jesus' hearers. And it is here that Matthew's Gospel ends. Nothing is said about the Ascension. This event is recorded in both Luke's Gospel and Luke's Acts of the Apostles as having occurred on the Mount of Olives, just outside of Jerusalem, which is a long way to the south. It also has a commissioning of sorts and references the day of Pentecost, which is now near. That's the Ascension, and the subsequent outpouring of the Holy Spirit. So these two accounts, Matthew's and Luke's, may appear contradictory until one recognises that the period from the resurrection to the ascension covers 40 days, and there is time for considerable movement going back and forth between the two locations. Having said that, this is potentially a distraction from what we're talking about today. Key to Matthew's account of the Great Commission is the authority and the promise with which it is given. The one who gives it and claims that all authority in heaven and on earth is given him is the risen Christ. It will be difficult to argue with his claims and commission as being unworthy of serious consideration, given that he has just conquered death. Would such a person lie about the source of his power and authority? As I said, the words of the risen Christ have both authority and promise. The one who makes this claim upon their lives to go, also makes the promise, "And surely I am with you always to the end of the age." The Great Commission then has an equally important promise. The one who is sending us is, in the sending, promises that we will never be alone. The going can be in our own neighbourhood, in our own homes. The commission is to disciple everyone. This means to make them followers of Jesus, lifelong learners of Jesus and Jesus' way, to become apprentices to Jesus. The early church was simply known as people of the way. You can see that as you read through the book of Acts, people of the way. This is something that is lived and modelled. It is where, to claim a contemporary example, others will look at us, observe us and say, I want what she's got. I want what he's got. True discipleship on our part will draw others to us and subsequently to Jesus. Some translations seem to have a continuing presence to the go. In going is how it reads. In going, make disciples. It has a sense of continuous action that is headed in a certain direction. This does not necessarily mean that we're all destined to overseas missions work, even those who feel called to it. Murray Robertson, who I've known reasonably well, was pastor at Spraydon Baptist Church for 40 years and had a longing for the mission field, yet he never went. Instead, the Lord used him to touch the lives of many at home, and Spraydon was an extremely active and effective missionary sending church. It was a leader in that field. So we, each of us, is in the mission field, just where we are. When we recognise that in every moment, Jesus is present. Every moment is an invitation to notice what God is doing, and I'm hoping we've picked this up throughout our series in Matthew. That there are no coincidences, happy or otherwise. When we recognise this, we can conclude that we are in God's mission field right where we are. And we get the opportunity to participate, to cooperate with what God is doing, or we can choose differently. There is no coercion, there is no force, simply an invitation. We get to choose how we respond. And however we choose, God journeys with us and continues to invite us to make new choices, new life-giving choices. And he continues to do this until he calls us home. Yet the choice is ultimately ours. It always is. So, we've reached the end of the Gospel. In the final 6 or so episodes, we're going to return to the beginning of Matthew's Gospel, to the Nativity text, because we haven't actually yet looked at them. And it's kind of appropriate as we move into and through Christmas. God bless you.